Hello and welcome to the latest video on the SAT Maths channel. Today we're going to do a walkthrough of higher tier paper 3 from the most recent year 11 March mocks. Hope everyone is staying safe, staying inside, not getting too much cabin fever. I'm finding it weird still working at home, but you kind of get used to it eventually, I suppose. I've also found lots of time to watch Mandalorian, which if you've not watched it is really, really good. Finally completed Uncharted 3. Can't believe it took me so long. Started learning Spanish, brewed some beer, and finally changed light bulbs in the bathroom. So, yeah, go me. Right, today then. First question, as ever, we've got our multiple choice section. So work out £2.10 as a fraction of 60p. So £2.10 is 210 pence as a fraction of 60p. So that means we're going to have 60p on the bottom. So we've got 21 over 6, 7 over 2. For a biased dice, so biased dice just means unfair dice. Probability P6 just means probability of getting a 6 is 4/5, 80%. Circle the probability of 2 6s when the dice is rolled twice. So we're going to roll it once, 4/5 chance, roll again, 4/5 chance. When we combine those probabilities, we're going to multiply them. So 4 times 4 on the top is 16, 5 times 5 on the bottom, 25. So we've got 16 over 25. Circle the lowest common multiple, LCM, of 3, 12 and 18. So that basically means if you wrote out the 3 times table, the 12 times table and the 18 times table, what would be the first number that appears in all of them? So the first one that's in the 12s and the 18s, 12, 24, 36, 18, 36 is 36. So therefore, because it's the first one in both of those, 36 is also in the 3 times table because it's 12 times 3. So 36 is the lowest common multiple. You could have done stuff with the prime factors there as well, but no need in that case. Circle the 2 roots. It's quite clear that it says 2. Just be careful. A number of people again only circled one answer in this one. So circle the 2 roots of x plus 5 multiplied by x minus 3 equals 0. If 2 things multiply to 0, therefore one or both of them must be 0. So either we can say x plus 5 is 0, so x equals minus 5, because minus 5 plus 5 is 0, or x minus 3 equals 0, so therefore x must be 3. So we circle minus 5 and 3. On the grid, draw an enlargement of the triangle with scale factor 1/2. Some people get a bit confused. Enlargement, it's got the word large in, so they think it means getting bigger. Technically, that's not the case. It's going to mean actually that things change size. So scale factor 1/2, everything gets multiplied by 1/2. So the height here is 6. 6 times 1/2 is 3. Base of the triangle is 4. 4 times 1/2 is 2. So we're going to do an isosceles triangle somewhere on the grid that has a base of 2 and a height of 3. Right, our next question, again this is another crossover question, so it's on the foundation and on the higher. To the nearest pound, John has £7. So he can have anything between £7.49 and £6.50, because all of those numbers would round to the nearest pound to £7. So the lower bound, the LB of £7, is £6.50. To the nearest 50p, Ellie has £3.50. So she's got anything between £3.25 and £3.74, because again, to the nearest 50p, they'd all round to £3.50. So the lower band there is going to be £3.25. So say £3.24 would have then rounded down to £3. Add the 2 lower bounds together, so the minimum total amount of money is going to be £9.75. 2 solids, J and K, maybe J.K. Rowling or J.K. out of Jamiroquai, great band, probably before a lot of your times. They've got the same density, so the density there we're going to work out by doing density, which technically is looks like a lowercase p, but density is mass divided by volume. So we've got 54 divided by 6, which gives us 9. The units there, because it says you must include units in your answer, it's going to be grams divided by centimetre cubed, grams per centimetre cubed. It tells us that both of these have the same density, so therefore this one is also going to be 9 grams per centimetre cubed. We then work backwards, so 72 divided by something is 9. switch that around. 72 divided by 9 is going to give me 8, and the units there again are going to be centimetre cubed. Rearrange y equals 3x minus 2 to make x the subject. A couple of different ways. You can do it as you solve an equation, or you can do it as a function machine, because there's only one occurrence of each unknown. So 3x minus 2, we're going to add 2 to both sides, so we get y plus 2 equals 3x. To get rid of the multiplied by 3, we divide by 3, put that as a fraction. So that should have been 3 there, not an x. So it's going to be y add 2 divided by 3, which is this option here. These ones either haven't done the opposite, or they've done it like this one in slightly wrong order. This would be y divided by 3 and then add 2. So that's slightly wrong order. Right, next one. Again, another crossover question here. So we've got 3 towns, P, Q and R. They're connected by roads, PQ, PR, QR. PR is 5 kilometres longer than PQ, so I know that PQ is going to be my shortest. So I'm just going to label that up, P to Q, as X. Doesn't matter what letter you actually use, but we can use X in this case. PR, this one here, is 5 kilometres longer, so I'm going to go for X add 5, because that's how to represent longer than something. And then we've got QR is twice as long as PR. So this one here is twice as long as this one. So x plus 5 and another x plus 5, 2 lots of x plus 5 gives me 2x add 10. It then tells me the total length of the 3 roads is 195 kilometres. So I've got x plus 5 plus 2x plus 10. X and 2x is 4x, 5 and 10 is 15. So I know that 4x add 15 equals 195. We're then just going to solve the equation, so take 15 off each side, so 4x 180, divide both sides by 4, halve it again, or however you want to divide by 4, so that gives you x equals 45. If you're struggling to do it a more algebraic way, you could have just done a bit of a trial and error. Start with a particular value, so if we'd started with, say, 40 here, that would be 40, that would be 45, and that would be 90. 40 plus 45 plus 90 doesn't give me the 195, so I know that my answer would have had to be bigger there. Right, question 10. Mia wants to borrow 900 quid and repay it with interest after 2 years. Not sure what Mia's borrowing the money for, why she's borrowing it for 2 years, etc. But that's apparently what Mia is doing. She sees 2 offers for the loans. Offer 1, compound interest, the key word there, compound. 5% per year, or offer 2, first year 3%, second year 7%. The reason that Mia is wrong, and a lot of the time if the question says is she correct, probably not going to be correct. You've got to try and find why she's going to be incorrect. So it's just a lack of understanding of compound. Compound interest, you calculate the percentage interest at the start of each year. So the first year you're basing your 5% on 900 quid, but then at the start of the second year you've no longer got 900 quid in that bank account. You've now got more money, so the actual interest would be bigger as well. The general formula to work out compound interest is there. The money times by the percentage multiplier to the power of the number of years. So 100, which we start with 100%, add 5 is 105%, so that's 1.05 as a multiplier. The easy way to get that multiplier, the word percentage just means out of 100, so 105 out of 100, 105 divided by 100 gives me that 1.05. So for offer 1, 900 times 1.05 to the power of 2, because it's for 2 years, and that gives us 992.25. Offer 2, 103% is 1.03, 107% is 1.07, so multiply those, we get £991.89. So it's not the same, as she's not correct. I said the uninitiated between, you would have thought, well, 3 and 7 is 10%, 2 lots 5 is 10%, so it's going to be the same. I say because of that change in money at the end of the second year, compound interest won't work quite as simply as that. Right, next. Again, crossover question. Question 11. 2 sets of numbers, A and B. It tells me all the numbers in set A, tells me 4 out of the 5 numbers in set B. It tells me about the mean of set A and the mean of set B, how they're related to each other. So for every 5 of set A, you get 9 of set B. Work out the value of x. So obviously, because it's asking about the mean, we're going to start by working that out. So mean essentially is collecting everything up and then sharing it out equally. So if 2 people had some sweets, one person had 10 sweets, the other person had 20 sweets, they'd put them all together in one big pile. Probably not due to coronavirus and social distancing at the moment, but in theory they'd put them all into one pile and then they'd share them out equally and they'd get 15 sweets each. So the total of A is 440 and there are 4 items in there. 440 divided by 4 means on average each one is 110. It then tells me the ratio, so it's 5 to 9 for A to B. So 5 parts A, 9 parts B. So to get from 5 to 110, well, we can work that out just by doing divide 110 by 5, we get 22. So multiply by 22 on the other side, so 9 times 22 is 198. So I know the average, mean average of set B is 198. If each item on average is 198, 198 times by 5 items means in total those must add up to 990, because 990 divided by 5 gives me that 198. So I have to have there a total of 990. So I add the ones up that I already got, so 180, 270, 300, 200, plus the x, that gives me 950, add whatever x is, to give me a total of 990. So 990 take away 950 means my missing value there must be 40. We can then just double check, I suppose, if we wanted. So add all those up, including the 40, you get 990. 990 divided by 5 gives me the 198. There are a few other ways of doing it, but that's probably the most straightforward. Straight line. So straight line, so we know it's going to follow the rule of y equals mx plus c. It tells me the gradient, so it's not even asking us to do dy dx and work out the gradient this time. It just tells us that the gradient is 2. In y equals mx plus c, the gradient is just the m, it's the number, the coefficient of x. Just like when you're doing sequences, you have 3n, it's going up in 3s, so this one, gradient 2, it's going up in 2s every time you move 1 unit to the right. So we know it's y equals 2x plus something. To then work out what that something is, we're told that the point is 3, 10. So x is 3 and then y is 10. So we've got y equals 2 lots of x add something. 2 lots of 3 add something gives me 10. Well, 2 lots of 3 is 6. 6 add something is 10. Take 6 off both sides, you get the c equals 4, the constant equals 4, the y-intercept. So that's where it's going to hit the y-axis. So in total, our equation is going to be y equals 2x, gradient of 2, add 4. Right, next 2 page, a little bit of vector work. So we're told vectors A and B are drawn on the grid, so vector A there. Vectors you always give us, if you want to give them as column vectors, and number on top. Number on top is how far left or right. It's left, negative, positive for right, and then bond number up or down. Up is positive, down is negative. This one is going 3 to the right, 2 up, so it was 3, 2. So if I was going the opposite way, so I've just drawn the same vector just with an arrow going the other way, that would be the vector of minus A, which opposite of 3 to the right, 3 left, opposite of 2 up, 2 down. If I then fitted this over this, I would have to have 2 of them. So minus A would take me to there, so then another minus A would take me to there. The other way to think about it, this has gone 6 to the left, 4 down, so it's minus 6 minus 4. To get from minus 3 minus 2, which is minus A, we have to multiply the whole thing by 2. So write B in terms of A. So if it says in terms of A, it means your answer is just going to have A in it, plus obviously a coefficient and a number in this case. So it's minus 2 lots of A. Vectors C and D are drawn on a grid. So C is 1 to the left, 2 up, minus 1, 2. D is 7 to the right, nothing up or down. So minus D would be minus 7, 0. So it asks us to represent C, take away D. So I'm going to go the same way as C, which would take me from there to there, and then minus d means I'm going to go the opposite way. So if d is 7 to the right, minus d is 7 to the left, so I go 7 to the left there. So there is my vector c minus d. Overall it's 8 to the left and 2 up. Next, where are we? Nearly at the halfway point. Okay, next one for class X. Number of boys to the number of girls is 7 to 8. For class Y, number of boys, number of girls, 3 to 4. First of all, it's important to realise it doesn't tell you the actual numbers, it just tells you the proportion, the relationship between how many one of how many the other. So these first two statements can't be true. Class X has more boys than Class Y, we don't know that. Class X has twice as many girls as Class Y. We don't know that because we don't know the numbers, we just know the fraction, the proportion. So as a fraction, to turn the ratio into fraction, add the numbers up in the ratio, so 7 plus 8 is 15. So the number of boys is 7 out of 15 parts here, and it's 3 out of 7 parts here. 7 out of 15 using a calculator is 46.6 recurrent percent, 3/7 is 42.9%. So therefore, I've only got two statements now to choose from. Class X has a greater proportion of boys, I rolled my R, a greater proportion of boys than Class Y. So that's correct. It doesn't have the same proportion because we proved there it's not the same. So it's this one that we need to tick. Simplify fully a to the power 5b cubed over cd times c over a b to the power 5. So I'm going to first of all just write it out full. When I'm multiplying a fraction, I'm just multiplying them together, so just put them together in this case. I've then got each letter can be simplified in some way apart from the d because there's no d's on top. So c divided by c is just 1 because anything divided by itself is 1, so that just cancels out. A to the 5 divided by a to the 1, or just a, gives you a to the power 4. B to the 3 divided by b to the 5 gives you b to the minus 2, so that means it can be b to the minus 2 just means 1 over b squared. That's what a negative power means, just means 1 over the reciprocal of it. So we're left with a to the power 4 on the top and b squared d on the bottom. Here are two sectors from different circles. So a sector is just a part of a circle that's bounded by two radii, like a slice of pizza or a slice of cake, I suppose you can think of it. So which sector has the bigger area? To do that, we need to think about the fact that an area of a circle is pi r squared, pi times radius squared. So if this was a full circle, it would be pi times 2.5 all squared. This one would be pi times 1.5 all squared. To work out then a sector, we need to work out what fraction of a circle we have. So it's always the number of degrees out of 360, because a full circle is 360 degrees. So working this one out, it's x over 360 times pi times 2.5 r squared. So 2.5r times 2.5r is 6.25 r squared. So that's what that one simplifies to there. Here I've got 2x times pi times 1.5r squared. 1.5r squared is 1.5r times 1.5r. 1.5 times 1.5 is going to be 2.25. Double that gives me 4.5. So I've got 4.5 pi x r squared. So therefore this one, the 6.25 one, is bigger than the 4.5. So therefore A is bigger. Make sure you obviously tick the box. Right, we're at the staples, so nearly at the halfway point. Up to this point now, so we've got 6, 13, 20, 27, 30, 36 marks. Okay, so 36. So we're not far off the halfway point, so we're about at grade 6 up to this point now. So a factory makes kettles. Not sure that that's probably what all that they make. I mean, they probably make other stuff as well, but it's a kettle factory. 4 samples are probably making other stuff at the moment for the coronavirus national effort and all that, but in this instance it's making kettles. 4 samples of kettles are tested for faults. Each sample has a size of 400. Relative frequencies. Relative frequency just means probability of faulty kettles in the samples. So the probability of a fault in sample P is 0.02, 2% technically. So to work out the number, we multiply the sample size by the probability. So 400 times 0.02 is 8. We do the same for all the others. Tell me all the samples are 400, so we get 10 for Q, 2 for R, and 36 for S. So it was quite a bad day, whoever was on shift for S. Work out the range. So range is always the distance from the top of the data to the bottom, the distance between the spread. So it's the biggest number subtract the smallest number. So 36 was the biggest, 2 was the smallest. So overall the range is going to be 34. Right, next we have a bit of an expansion, then writing it in a format of a quadratic equal to 0. So we expand that bracket. X times 4x is 4x squared. 5 times x is 5x. So we've got 4x squared plus 5x equals 6. I want it equal to 0 because it has to be equal to 0 to solve as a quadratic. So we've got 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. The second part then says solve. So obviously we've done the hard work, we've converted this to 0, equal to 0. So now we've got to solve in whichever way we want. I've just chosen to use the quadratic formula there. So we've got 4 is A, 5 is B, C is going to be minus 6. So I've just wrote that down there. I'm just going to help myself just by making sure that the minus 6 is going to be in brackets when I do it as well. So minus B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all divided by 2A. That is our quadratic formula. So substitute some numbers in. So before I do anything on the calculator, I'm just going to work it through as far as I can. So minus 5 plus or minus square root of 5 squared minus 4 times minus 6 all over 2 times 4. So we get 25 there. 4 times 4, 16 times negative 6 gives me negative 96. So 25 minus 96 all over 8. Minus, that becomes a positive there. Obviously you can just type this whole thing in a calculator. So that gives me 121. Square root 121 is 11. So I've got minus 5 plus or minus 11 over 8. So if it's add, it's going to be minus 5 add 11, so that's 6 over 8, which is 3/4. Or minus 5 minus 11, which is minus 16. Minus 16 divided by 8 is minus 2. You can double check if you want that these answers do right. So if we substitute in x for minus 2 or x for 3/4, both of them would give me an answer there of 6. Right. 19. Here is some information about the times people took to complete a survey. Fastest time 3 minutes, slowest time 18 minutes. Imagine 18 minutes on a survey. Wow, that'd be boring. So the fastest time 3, slowest time 18, median 11, low quartile 7, interquartile range 8. We've got a box plot just to represent this data. Make 2 criticisms. They've got to be different criticisms, otherwise we're not going to get 2 separate marks for it. The obvious way of tackling this is, because it's giving you this data, probably 2 of the things are going to be wrong. So we go through them. The median is supposed to be at 11. If you look here, each one of these little boxes is worth 2. So we go 2, 4, 5, 6, etc. 10. So that one's going to be 11 there. I'm not quite sure why I said random numbers there. Never mind. So that's 11. It should have been there. It's actually at 10.5. So the median's in the wrong place. The lower quartile's in the right place. That's fine. That's at 7. Interquartile range means the distance between the upper quartile and the lower quartile. So it needs to be 8 apart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that means if it's going to have an interquartile range of 8, your upper quartile should have been at 15, but it's actually been drawn at 16. So the interquartile range has been drawn as 9 instead of 8. So those are our 2 criticisms, errors there. 20. D is directly proportional to the cube of V, so that means they both go up. So as the cube of V doubled, the D would also double. They both go up at the same rate. So D equals 8 when V equals 4. So first of all, we've got to work out an equation connecting D and V. This is the more algebraic, formal way of doing it. So you'd start by writing D is proportional to V cubed. You then write D equals something multiplied by V cubed. So put some numbers in. D is 8, V is 4, so 4 cubed is 64, so 8 equals something times by 64, so therefore rearrange, take that to the other side, 8 over 64 is 1/8, so K is equal to 1 over 8, divide by 8, I suppose you could call it. So there's my formula, D equals 1/8 of V cubed, or D equals V cubed over 8. We then use that formula to work out the value of D when V equals 20. Now, even if you don't have this bit right, as long as you then substitute correctly into whatever you've got for part A, you could still have got marks here. So D equals V cubed over 8, 1/8 V cubed, 20 cubed, 20 times 20 times 20, calculator to double check that, that's going to be 8,000, 2 times 2 times 2, times 10 times 10 times 10. So 8,000 divided by 8 gives me 1,000. Nice and simple. Okay, I'm talking for, how much are we on? 26 minutes already. Right, let's carry on. I'm just going to get distracted, or if I keep going for too long, just start thinking about top 5 superheroes or something like that. Which are actually, my top 5 superheroes I think could be Spider-Man, Booster Gold, Captain America, Wolverine and Squirrel Girl. I know a friend really disputes that and thinks Squirrel Girl is literally the worst superhero ever created, but she's brilliant. So yeah, Squirrel Girl, if you've never heard of her, look her up. Brilliant superhero. Question 21. One of these nice kind of money questions where there's a lot going on, lots of information. So Hanif makes green paint by mixing blue paint and yellow paint, and it tells us the ratio there is 8 to 3. He buys blue paint in 60 litre containers. Each of those costs 330 quid. That's quite expensive. I suppose paint is expensive. He buys yellow paint in 25 litre containers, each costing £87.50. He wants to sell the green paint in 11 litre tins conveniently. That's the same as 8 plus 3, so we don't have to do too much work there. And he wants to make 20% profit on each tin. So first of all, I'm going to work out the cost of blue paint per litre. So if it costs me 330 quid for 60 litres, divide 330 by 60, we get £5.50. Yellow is going to be £87.50 divided by 25, so that's £3.50 per litre. So 11 litre 10, as I said, the ratio already breaks down nicely. So 11 split into a ratio of 8 to 3 is 8 litres blue, 3 litres yellow. So to make one tin, we'd have to do 8 times £5.50, which is 44 quid. We'd have to do 3 times 350, which is 10.50. Add them together, we get £54.50. So that's how much it's going to cost him. To make a profit, there's different ways you could work out. 10% is £5.45, so 20% is going to be double that, so £10.90, etc, etc. The quicker way, you start with 100%, you want to increase it by 20%, so you've got 120%. That's a multiply by 1.20. So I'm going to do £54.50 times 1.20, which gives me £65.40. Question 22. That symbol there just means universal set. So it means in total there's 29 students in a class. C, students who own a cat. Should have been, it's about printing, that should have been there. D, students that own a dog. So we've got our numbers in here. So there's 5 that only own a cat, there's 8 that own both, there's 7 that only own a dog, and then there's 9 that own neither. So students chosen at random, circle the probability, owns a cat or a dog, but not both. So owns a cat, 5, owns a dog, 7, but not both. That's the key there. So we're not going to include those 8. So there's 5 plus 7, which is 12. So it's going to be 12 out of 29. The next bit, just got to be careful with it. A student who owns a cat is chosen at random. So they've already selected it's going to be someone who owns a cat. So there's 5 and 8. There's 13 potential students that they've selected. Circle the probability that the student also owns a dog. So out of those 13 students that own a cat, 8 of them also own a dog, so it's going to be 8 out of 13. Question 23. Here's the sketch of the curve y equals 2 to the power of x. So we've got like 2 to the power of 0 is 1, 2 to the power of 1 is 2, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, etc, etc. So it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger at a quicker and quicker rate. You've probably seen a lot of these type of graphs on the news recently. So on the axis above, sketch the curve y equals 3 to the x. So it's similar, just replacing 2 with 3. Anything to the power of 0 is always going to still be 1. So it's still going to go through that same point. If you don't know what it's going to look like, you could literally just compare these. So 3 to the 0 is 1, 3 to the 1 is 3, 3 to the 2 is 9. So all of these values here, it's the same at that point, but then it's bigger. If you carried on, 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 3 to the power of 3 is 27. So again, it's always going to be above on this side. On this bit, 2 to the minus 1, well, that just means 2, basically 1 over 2 is the reciprocal, so that's going to be a half. 3 to the minus 1 is going to be 1/3. So on this side, it's actually going to be lower, and the same if we carried on. 2 to the minus 2 is 1 over 2 squared, so that's 1/4. 3 to the minus 2 is 1 over 3 squared, which is 1/9. So on this side, it's going to be below the line. So it's above on this bit, same here, and then below that. Same as y equals something to that. They'd all go through this point, and then the bigger the number here, it'd be bigger or it'd be small on that side. Question 24. The length of the diagonal of a cuboid is 15 centimeters. So it's already marked on there, so we don't actually need to help by putting anything else on a diagram. We know that this is 15 here. Diagonal makes an angle of 24 degrees with the base. We've got that marked on there as well. Work out the volume of the cuboid. So I know volume of the cuboid is length times width times depth, 3 dimensions multiplied together. It already tells me the base is 120, so I need to basically do 120 times by the other dimension angle, which is this length here. So to do that, it's a right angle triangle. So it's basically SOHCAHTOA is trigonometry of a right angle triangle. So I'm going to label up. We can help ourselves just by doing the diagram here. So I know that's 15. I know that's going to be 24. It's this one that I want. So labeling up. Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. Opposite the angle is the opposite, and next to the angle is the adjacent. Tick tick cross. So hypotenuse I want. Opposite I want. Don't care about the adjacent. So go through SOHCAHTOA, salt on hot chips and hot toffee on apples. The only one that's got O and H in is going to be sine. So I've wrote them in triangles already to help me. So to work out the opposite, if you cover over S and H, sine and hypotenuse next to each other. So opposite equals sine of the angle times by the hypotenuse. So sine of 24 multiplied by 15. Put that into our calculator, we get 6.101. So therefore, final set, the volume, base area, 120 times by 6.101 gives me 732.13 centimetre cubed. Right. A, B, C, D is a square. We're given the vertices, the corners of each of those, that's square. In a single transformation, again, it's really important. You can't do multiple transformation because it says in big bold letters that it's got to be single. B is mapped to D and D is mapped to B, so basically these two flip over. So straight away you're thinking, right, it's going to be mirror image. A and C are invariant. The word invariant just means they don't move, they don't change, they don't vary. They're going to be the same at the end as they were at the start. So the only way to do that is to have those 2 points on the mirror line. So if these don't move, they must be on the mirror line, so I put my mirror line through there. Any horizontal line is y equals, because every coordinate on this line, the y point would be equal to 1, so therefore that line is going to be called y equals 1. Just like any vertical line is always going to be called x equals something, because any coordinate on it would be the same x value. So reflect, or a reflection in the line y equals 1. Make sure you don't say mirrored or anything like that. You've got to use the exact word reflect or rotate or enlarge or translate, etc. You can't just use slang or wishy-washy words for it. A different single transformation is such that B is mapped to D, D is mapped to B. So these are still mapped onto each other, but this time the only invariant point is 0, 1. So it's this point here. So that means these points do move. So this time, if you've got one single fixed invariant point, it's more likely to be a rotation. So we're going to rotate 180 because it's got to be 180 because they're opposite each other, around the point 0, 1. 3 marks, 3 things to say. 1 for rotate, 1 for 180. You're either going to have 180 or 90 in this case because it's halfway, it's going to be 180 around the point 0, 1. If you had tracing paper, you could double check that by putting your tracing paper on and just show that it does it. Question 26. We have g, function g is 16 take away x, and then h is 2x cubed. Solve g hx equals 0. So what's happened here, we've got the function of h g, so we do it in that order. So we put 2x cubed into this function here, so what I'm going to do is swap that x for that 2x cubed. So we end up with 16 subtract 2x cubed equals 0, because it tells us it equals 0 there. Add the 2x cubed onto both sides, so you get 16 equals 2x cubed. Divide both sides by 2, you get 8 equals x cubed. The opposite of cubing something is cube rooting it, so I'm going to cube root the 8. Cube root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is going to give me 8, so therefore x must be 2. Right. Question that I'm sure everyone loved when you did this. I think it's quite a nice question personally, but a lot of people came out of the exam just being a little bit confused by it. We're told various things about this diagram. So we're told A is a point on a circle, centre 0, so that makes it nice and easy because our centre is on the origin. B is another point on a different circle, centre O. It tells us this line here, AB is 16. The equation of the larger circle is x squared plus y squared equals 100. Now, your general formula for a circle equation is x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and then it tells us the relationship, the ratio between the smaller and the larger radius. So if the large circle is x squared plus y squared equals 100, r squared from our general formula is 100, square root of 100 is 10. So I know that this length here, this radius, is 10. We can then work out the smaller radius. So if the ratio is 4 to 5, 5 to 10 is doubled, so double the 4 as well, so 8 to 10. So I know the smaller radius is 8. So this is now the diagram that I've got. I've got a triangle here from there, that side's 8, that side's 10, and that side is 16. It's asking us to work out the size of angle AOB, so AOB, so it's this angle here as shown on my diagram there. So 3 sides of a non-right angled triangle. The way of doing the angle is therefore going to be cosine rule. So cosine rule, a lot of people learn it in that way: a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. You can just remember that and rearrange it, or you can learn the other way. The angle is always going to be cos minus 1 of b squared plus c squared minus a squared, all divided by 2bc. Once you've got to this point, it is then just substituting in some numbers. So as long as you remember the angle you're looking for is your A, so therefore the side opposite is A, because that's how we label non-right angled triangles. Doesn't matter which you B and C, because you do the same thing to them. You square them, you add them, and you times them together on the bottom there. So we've got 8 squared plus 10 squared minus 16 squared all over 2 times 10 times by 8. Put all that into your calculator, it's minus 23 over 40. That gives us the cos of the angle, so therefore cos of the minus 1, the inverse of cos, get rid of the cos, turn it back into an angle, it's 125.1 degrees. Don't really say what decimal place to give it to, etc., but yeah, 125.1 degrees. Right, finally, last question. So Leo, the lion, runs for 12 seconds. Graph shows his speed, so he's running constant speed there, constant speed, and then down to there. Show the distance he runs is less than 67.5 meters. So the way we need to answer this, if we've got a speed time graph, so obviously he's speeding up quickly, and then he's slowing down there. The area underneath it is going to be your distance. The reason for that, if you think about the units, meters per second for speed, and then we've got time. If we multiply those together, meters per second times by seconds just gives you meters. Meters is your distance. That's why the area under that graph, under a speed time graph, is going to give you the distance that's actually being covered. So we're going to split this up into a triangle, and a trapezium in the middle, just to work out our area. You could split, I suppose, the middle bit up into two sections as well, a rectangle there and another triangle there. So I've labelled these up as A, B and C. A is a triangle, so half times base times height, so the base is 5, height is 8, half times 5 times 8 means this bit here would be 20 metres. Trapezium, so the two parallel sides are these two lines here, so I've got half of 8 add 9, and then the distance between the two parallel sides is 4, so we've got 17 half times 4, so 17 times 2, which is 34. Again, it's calculated paper anyway. Then the last one, again, is triangle, so it's half times by 3 times by height of 9, which is 13.5. So if we add together our three areas, we get 67.5. Show that the distance he runs is less than this. Well, my triangle here, it's an overestimate because it's including this section here, which isn't actually my graph, because my graph's actually just a bit inside that there. So if this adds up to 67.5, it's an overestimate because actually the distance of this bit is going to be less than 13.5. Right, last couple of marks. Work out his average acceleration for the first 9 seconds. So the acceleration is gradient. It's the how quickly his speed is changing. So to do that, we do the gradient of the graph. Gradient is dy dx. The change in y for the first 9 seconds, well, it goes from 0 to 9. The change in x for the first 9 seconds, again, is 0 to 9. So it's 9 divided by 9, which is 1. Units your answer, where your second mark is going to come from here. So it's going to be meters per second divided by second. That's what we've essentially done here, because it's 9 meters per second divided by 9 seconds. So that's meters per second divided by 9 seconds. So it's meters per second squared. Right, that is that paper done. So we've now done paper 1 and paper 3. Paper 2 I'll do in the coming days. Hopefully everyone is finding these useful. It's passing the time for me, so can't complain too much. It stops me thinking too much about going out and eating in nice restaurants and stuff. I spent ages yesterday planning out my perfect dream meal, which would be mussels with chorizo and cider, a steak with mac and cheese, chips, peppercorn sauce, and a side of Thai green curry, and then tiramisu for dessert. So yeah, I'm just going to go away and start thinking about that again now. Hope everyone's keeping safe, keeping indoors, hasn't got too much cabin fever, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.